course, we are live across the globe. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. And it's time. It's time for the money news that matters. I'm Aaron Heselhurst, and this is Talking Business. Hey, let's take a look at the top story. Anger. Yeah, anger at the new United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. Canadian dairy farmers and steel workers, they vent their frustration towards the trilateral trade deal, saying they've been sacrificed. Hey, we're going live to Washington to hear from this expert who also has some concerns about the deal, in particular, the new minimum wage for the auto sector. Also, coming up on the program, we're live at the Paris Motor Show. We are, to see who's in top gear and what they make of the USMCA. As always, every day, we'll bring you all the action, not looking very good, on the global markets, and how to get from A to B quicker than the rest. Fly by private jet, obviously. Yeah, we're going to be speaking to the big boss of the fastest growing private jet company in the world, who only sees blue skies ahead. All of that coming up on this edition of Talking Business. Yeah, good morning, America. Evening, Asia. Hello, world. Welcome to the program. So, let's get some of the reaction to that huge United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. Yeah, it's the USMCA. We're going to be talking about it a lot. Global markets, they reacted with some relief. We saw with Wall Street and Tokyo's Nikkei and Europe's main markets have all edged higher after that deal was confirmed. And the biggest winners from the agreement were US dairy producers and Canadian car makers. However, let me tell you, not everyone's happy. No, there's got to be some losers, I guess. The United Steelworkers Canadian Association claimed that they were left in the lurch by the deal. With US steel tariffs, they still apply against Canadian steel. The Union Dairy Farmers of Canada said that 220,000 Canadians had been sacrificed to secure the deal. US farmers now have access to 3.5% of Canada's dairy market. Okay, bam, let's get rid of the cube. Okay, let's go with Tori Whiting. He's trade economist for the Heritage Foundation and he's waiting for us in Washington. Tori, I know you can hear me. Good to see you, or good to have you with us. Let's start with the US farmers. They now have access to 3.5% of Canada's dairy market. Now, that's not a lot, right? 3.5%, pretty small, but I guess the point is better than no percent.
Well, you're correct. And honestly, the original NAFTA agreement pretty much had zero tariffs across the board on the majority of agricultural markets. And so it's great to see the administration able to crack a little bit into the armor of the Canadian dairy program. Now, it's not as much of a huge change as maybe what the president said yesterday in his press conference, but every step forward is good. And we want to make sure that we are lowering barriers, lowering tariffs, and at least in this aspect, we've done a little bit of it.
Yeah, indeed. Tell us why you're concerned about the minimum wage. So that, for our viewers around the world, the uninitiated, part of this deal is 40%, and correct me if I'm wrong, 40% of cars made in North America have to be made by a worker earning $16 an hour. And there are a lot of people looking towards Mexico, you know, to picking up that minimum wage. Why does that concern you?
Well, I mean, right now, NAFTA has a 62.5% requirement for rules of origin. So a car has to be made up to that margin in North America to not be subject to tariffs. They've increased that margin to 75% and added on this minimum wage requirement for roughly 30% of the production process to happen at $16 per hour. For me, as a conservative and as a free market person, that's just a huge regulatory burden to manufacturers, not only in the United States, but in Canada and Mexico. And in Mexico, wages have risen in manufacturing, but unfortunately, they still have a lower standard of living than the United States. And pushing this minimum wage requirement on them is not going to help create a better North America.
No. Tori, do you think countries around the world who the US wants to renegotiate the trade deal, and some of them have been, you know, saying no, you know, or like China, European Union, do you think they're watching what happened yesterday and going, uh-oh, the Canadians conceded, we're going to have to go back to the table to make a deal?
Well, I think that you do see some countries coming to the table. Of course, the US and Japan just announced that they're going to be starting bilateral talks, and there's a little bit of ongoing between the US and the EU. I do think that the administration is showing a bit of an interest in negotiating trade agreements, which hasn't been the case over the last year and a half or so. They've been more focused on slapping tariffs and slapping taxes on the American people than they have in negotiating new free trade agreements.
I got to ask you this in a nutshell. Is this a victory for President Trump? Do you think it took a man of his ilk to actually get these changes through?
Well, not necessarily. Heritage is still doing a full analysis of this agreement. It's going to take us some time because the agreement's 1,700 pages long. So it'll take us some time to really evaluate it. But a lot of the changes, say, in the area of modernization are actually a cut and paste from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which the U.S., of course, pulled out of at the beginning of President Trump's term. So some things are new, some things don't look so new to us, but we're hoping that eventually we'll figure out that this agreement is a net positive for the U.S., but that's still to be determined.
Indeed. Hey, Tori, a real pleasure having you on my show. Thanks very much, and we hope to get you on again soon. Tori Whiting from the Heritage Foundation joining us from Washington. Let's head over to New York.